All right. Good morning. What is up, everybody? Matt Modi here with another live stream of Fast Break Bets presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11 a.m. Today, we have 8 games total. It's a little bit of a gross slate. Admittedly, we have a ton of injury news. So there's 2 games that I'm just going to be skipping entirely: the Pelicans Heat and the Cavaliers versus Timberwolves, until we get more clarity on who's actually playing. So as of right now, we're going to have 5 units risked. Last stream wasn't great. We were 3 and 5 on our 8 plays, down 1.8 units. The brutal part of that was we had Sabonis over his PRA, and he sat the entire fourth quarter because that game was a blowout. If he had played, he probably would have cashed, but he didn't. We move on. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick. So if you see stuff like that, that's why. Make sure to subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel if you are not already. Share the link with your friends. Let's cash as many bangers in front of as many people as possible. And then the most important thing is to get your questions, your comments, everything possible in the chat itself. Whenever you see me looking over, all I'm doing is monitoring the chat. And on a day like today, where we have a gross slate of basketball games, all the help I can get from you guys commenting, whether they're plays that you like that maybe I hadn't even thought of yet, anything like that, questions you want my advice on, get all of that in the chat. March Madness doesn't start for another, hour or so. So you got plenty of time to cash some NBA bangers, which we can get right into. So the first play that we're going to go ahead and lock in here, this is in the Celtics versus Pistons game. I'm taking Cade Cunningham over 21.5 points. This is best offered at plus 100 odds per the Betting Pros consensus. This is one of those games that has just a ton of injury news. On the Celtics side, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford are all listed as questionable. And then we have Drew Holiday already confirmed out. And then as for the Pistons, Simone Fontecchio is out, as is Quentin Grimes. So it's a gross game in terms of injuries, but I actually do really like the matchup for Cade Cunningham. I think that even though I have it listed here as a lean, I think that if you want to get ahead of the market and you assume that maybe not all 4 of those guys that are questionable are going to sit, but maybe half of them or even one of them, that you could end up getting a pretty good price right now on Cade Cunningham. I don't hate that logic because, again, if they all get ruled out, the odds might go even higher for Cade, which means that we'd get a pretty good price as of right now. Cade isn't known as, he's not an electric scorer. He's hit or miss as a scorer, but he did cash this in the last game that he played. Of course, the 3 games prior to that, he missed this over-under. Of course, the 4 games prior to that, he cashed the over-under. So that just kind of shows you the cyclical nature of the NBA. Guys go on runs, stuff like that. The Celtics defense is really, really good, but they are mildly vulnerable when it comes to guarding pick and roll heavy guards. They have a good efficiency, but they allow a lot of points. Teams run a lot of pick and rolls against the Celtics. It's the only way that you can really score. On the year, the Celtics are giving up the 6th most points per game to pick and roll ball handlers. And if you look at some of the big time performances that have come against the Celtics, it's guys that can run pick and rolls, pull up from 3 or pull up in the mid range. And over the past 10 games, Cade Cunningham leads the Pistons both in drives per game and in points per game via drives. And then on the entire season, he's by far leads the team as the main pick and roll ball handler. He averages 9.7, so just under 10 points per game via pick and rolls as the main ball handler. The next closest guy on the Pistons is below 4. So like I said, he just crushes the next closest guy in terms of running pick and rolls for the Pistons. The last time that he played the Celtics, he scored 31 points. He missed the last time these 2 teams played, but the last time he actually played them, like I said, he scored 31 points. If he can get even mildly close today, that would be great. That would cash our first play. Now that we're 1 pick deep, we are presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, so I just kind of want to dive into that a little bit more. I mentioned that March Madness starts in about an hour. The thrill and excitement of March Mania is here. And DraftKings Sportsbook, one of America's top-rated sportsbook apps, is giving new customers a shot to turn $5 into $150 instantly in bonus bets with any college basketball bet. The first game of today is Northwestern versus FAU. If you like Northwestern, you can get them on the money line at plus 164. If you think UConn is going to repeat as national champion, you can get them at plus 340. as the most likely team to win was what I was looking for on DraftKings. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code FANTASYPROS. New customers, again, can bet $5 to get $150 instantly in bonus bets only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Again, with code FANTASYPROS. The crown is yours. So Dom in the chat asking Cade Cunningham 3-pointers. I do like that as well. I do think that's a good play. I was honestly debating between threes and points. So if you wanted to take over, is it only 1.5? That's actually crazy. I thought it was 2.5. That's a good play from Dom. I would absolutely recommend taking that one, though. Cade Cunningham over 1.5 3-pointers. Minus 110 odds is really good. Brian French, what's up? Thank you for joining us. Okay. Next pick, Thunder versus Raptors game. I'm taking Chet Holmgren. Double-double, plus 110 odds is the best offered price per the Betting Pros consensus. I initially had this written down as Chet over 9.5 rebounds. But if he's going to get to, if I think he's going to get to 10 rebounds, you should always look at the double-double to see if you can get better price. And double-double is priced at plus 110. Much, much better odds. Obviously, you have the risk of him possibly not getting 10 points. But his over-under points is 16.5. Last time these two teams played, he had 22 points. It's a really good scoring matchup, just if you look at how Chet scores in the Raptors defense. So I would be shocked. Sorry, there's something in my eye. I would be shocked if he didn't get to 10 points. Really what you're going to be sweating out is the rebounds. And that's where the Raptors defense has been among the worst in the entire NBA in terms of allowing rebounds to centers. With all their injuries, everybody banged up on the Raptors. They just have no depth, no talent in their backcourt. So because of that, over the last 30 days, they're allowing the most rebounds per game to centers by far. So they're allowing 18.5 rebounds to centers, again, over the past 30 days. The next closest team is the Washington Wizards at 17.2. Look at the last couple games against the Raptors. Domantas Sabonis had 17 rebounds. Granted, his over-under was 15.5, so he was expecting to get a lot. He still went over. And he did that, as I mentioned, despite not even playing in the fourth quarter. Prior to that, you had Jalen Duren get 23 rebounds. And then you had James Wiseman in the same game get 10 on an over-under of 3.5. 33 combined rebounds to Jalen Duren and James Wiseman, the two Piston centers. The game before that, Jokic had 17. So yeah, they give up a ton of rebounds. Also, and this includes the entire season, not even looking at a recent sample size. On the year, they're allowing the second most rebounds per game to Chet's rebounding style. And as I mentioned, they just gotten worse recently. If I could filter that data to be the past 30 days, I'm very confident they would be number one. So I absolutely love Chet to get a double-double. I think getting it at plus 110 odds is an awesome, awesome price. I'm wondering if you like this parlay. Yeah, to be honest with you, when it gets to March Madness, I start to look a little bit into college basketball and stuff. Like I did a video for Betting Pros about 10 March Madness plays. I did not look into specifically this Northwestern Florida Atlanta game. So unfortunately, I can't give you any advice there. I apologize. Petros de la Portas. Mike Thompson, my last few parlays have all missed by one leg. It hurts, but keep the faith. Yeah, that's a bummer. That's why I generally like to be safer with parlays. I mostly play everything straight. Like all these picks I give out are meant to be played straight. And then I have my same game parlay at the very end. Dom, just being right straight up about it. All right. Next game. So Pelicans versus Heat, technically the next game on my list. There are only odds right now, 3-point prop odds for CJ McCollum. He's not a bad matchup. I like the matchup better for Trey Murphy. I want to wait and see what odds are posted for Trey Murphy when odds are released, because I love the matchup for him. So stand by here. Make sure to check the Betting Pros app over the course of the day as player prop odds get posted. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, because I will post whether I'm officially playing something or not. So again, Trey Murphy, make sure to check out the play is going to be Trey Murphy odds. So make sure to check out the app and on Twitter to see when odds finally get posted. Next game, unfortunately, is another one that we're passing on. Cavaliers versus Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert are both listed as questionable. I can't play anything with their two most important players listed as questionable. Anthony Edwards will probably play because he always plays through questionable tags, but I need that confirmation. And then Rudy Gobert, it's a huge deal if he plays or not. So I need that I need that confirmation as well. So unfortunately, 2 passes there. Next up, and I will have a play in admittedly a terrible game, Grizzlies versus Spurs. The play is Devin Vassell over 2.5 made 3-pointers. Best offered at plus 100 odds for the Betting Pros consensus. It's a gross game. It's a gross Friday night slate of basketball, unfortunately. We got a bad Spurs team. We got a bad and baked up Grizzlies team going up against each other. But if you can separate yourself from that and you just look at the matchup, it's a really good angle for Devin Vassell 3-pointers. This has been the case the entire year. The Grizzlies have not been a good defense guarding the 3-point line. And they've been especially bad recently, and especially bad allowing catch and shoot 3-pointers. If you look at the past 10 games, they're allowing the second most made catch and shoot 3-pointers in the entire NBA, only behind the Jazz for the top spot. The Spurs don't have a ton of shooting. They really only have 2 guys that'll fire away. It's Devin Vassell and it's Keldon Johnson. Now, there are no odds yet posted for Keldon Johnson. So that's kind of what made me lean towards Devin Vassell. But it is a good matchup for Devin Vassell. I'm not just saying that I'm only taking him because Keldon Johnson's not available. He's tied with Keldon Johnson in terms of attempted catch and shoot 3-pointers for the Spurs. But Devin Vassell makes a higher percentage of his looks. So he leads the team in made catch and shoot 3-pointers. Vassell did miss this in his last 2 games. Prior to that, he had cashed it in 3 of his previous 4. So perfect time to ride back in on Devin Vassell 3-point props. Excellent fade of recent results on this one. So we've 3 picks deep, kind of. It's a weird day. Before I get into the next one, I want to talk to you about the Betting Pros app, bettingpros.com/apps. I use the app there's a ton of different functionalities that you can use the app for. The number one that I like it the most for is the prop bet cheat sheet. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Using the cheat sheet, you can find Betting Pros recommended picks based on the current lines that the sportsbooks are offering, and also based on the Betting Pros projections themselves. So they'll kind of tell you positive EV plays based on their own projections and what the lines are offering. You can also sort by positive EV. You can sort, or like highest positive EV. You can sort by most likely that the bet actually hits itself. You can sort by biggest gap between their projections and the sportsbooks over unders. A ton of different uses of the prop bet cheat sheet. I lock in all the picks that I can on the app as well. You can find my profile at bettingpros.com/modi. You can also get a free trial to the premium offering. So if you download the Betting Pros app, you can get access to a free trial of the premium offering. And then they have a bet sync function, syncs all the different sports books in your bets. So you don't need to manually go in and track anything. You can just do it directly through the Betting Pros app. It's phenomenal. Highly, highly recommend checking it out. bettingpros.com/apps. Next game that we are going to talk about here, this is in the Pacers versus Warriors game. And I'm going to have 2 plays for this one. The first one is Steph Curry over 27.5 points, minus 105 odds at DraftKings. I'm also going to ladder Steph up to 30 plus points as well. I put a half unit on that at plus 145 odds. I also like, and I promised I'll talk about it, this was a positive expected value play via the Betting Pros app. They project Steph to score 29.1 points in this one, so just over 29. Obviously above what we need for the main line and very close to the ladder play. It's kind of funny. When you think about the Pacers defense and when you think about how Steph scores, you wouldn't expect the Pacers defense to be a really good matchup for Steph Curry. The Pacers don't allow a ton of 3-pointers, and they allow everything at the rim. But when you dig into it, they actually are. They are a good matchup for Steph. They allow the 4th most points per game to his shooting profile, the most points per game to both his scoring and his playmaking style as well. And when you dig into the numbers in terms of what the Pacers give up and how Steph scores, it actually does start to make a lot of sense, even despite the fact that they don't give up a lot of 3-pointers. They allow teams to score basically everywhere else on the court besides from 3-point range. The Pacers allow the 3rd most points per game off screens. Steph scores the 2nd most points per game in the entire NBA off screens. Technically, he's also second on the Warriors because Klay scores more than him off of screens. I actually like this matchup better for Steph because the Pacers will run you off the 3-point line. So if you're running off of a screen, they will aggressively run you off the 3-point line, which just leaves someone like Steph open for a floater, for a mid-range shot. So it's a little bit, and Steph's just obviously a little bit more dynamic off the dribble than Klay. That's why I like this matchup for Clay in terms of off-screen. That's why I like the matchup for Steph better than Clay in terms of how Steph scores off of screens. The Pacers are also tied for allowing the second most points per game to dribble handoffs in the entire NBA, and Steph scores the fourth most points per game, specifically via dribble handoffs in the NBA. Now, Steph doesn't ISO a ton, but he does score the most points on the Warriors via isolation. The Pacers allow the most isolation points in the entire NBA. Steph also scores the most points on the Warriors via drives as well. And based on all the data that I have, the guess here is that the Pacers defense is weak to drives. Unfortunately, you can't actually find that data for whatever reason. NBA.com doesn't give you defensive points allowed via drives. I don't know why, but how bad they are via ISO, how bad they are via pick and roll ball handlers, you can only guess they're bad via drives as well. So Steph, he missed a couple games with a sprained ankle. His first game back from injury, he scored 31 points. Then he missed it in 2 straight games. That makes it a great opportunity, and you notice me say that a lot in these streams. I like to fade the most recent results because I think people kind of fall in love with, oh, he went off yesterday. He's going to go, I want to bet his over again today because he went off. Where normally kind of the opposite happens, right? Steph has had 2 down games in a row, especially last game. He only scored 14 points. That was only in 24 minutes of playing time, and he only attempted 9 shots because that game was a blowout and he barely played. Unlikely that this game tonight's going to be a blowout. And the last time these two teams played, Steph scored 42 points. If he can at least get to 30 tonight, that would be great because you would cash our mainline play and our ladder play. Next up, same game, and Brian French likes him under 3-pointers. That's a good value play just in terms of the Pacers don't give up a lot of 3-pointers. Granted, last time these two teams played, I think he had 7 in the first quarter. And I think, and honestly, I envision Steph scoring more not from 3-point range, more in the mid-range, more via floaters, even getting to the rim, which doesn't do very frequently. But so I don't hate that play. It depends what the odds are, obviously. Anyways, next play, same game. I'm taking Myles Turner over 1.5 made 3-pointers. This is best offered at plus 146 odds per the Betting Pros consensus. I love to look at last 10 game sample size because you can kind of find some stats that you wouldn't necessarily think of. And the Warriors have sneakily been giving up a lot of 3-pointers recently, but the way in which they've been giving up 3-pointers is via catch and shoot, but it's not catch and shoot on the corner. It's catch and shoot above the break. So it's kind of, you don't normally think of catch and shoot above the break. You think of pull up from above the break, but they don't give up really anything from the corner, and they don't give up really anything from pull up threes as well. But where they do is catch and shoot and above the break. Over the past 10 games, they're allowing the 3rd most made catch and shoot 3-pointers in the NBA, and they're allowing the 6th most above the break 3-point attempts and the 3rd most made above the break as well. That's over the past 10 games. If you look at that same 10-game sample size, Myles Turner is making the most catch and shoot 3-pointers on the Pacers on the 2nd most attempts. So he's attempting the 2nd most, making the most, and he's also attempting the most. He's also making the most. Sorry, my notes confused me a little bit. He's making the most above the break 3-pointers on the Pacers while attempting the 2nd most as well. So both catch and shoot and above the break, he is making the most and attempting the 2nd most. I also like the fact that the Warriors, they give up a lot of open 3-pointers. NBA defines open as something between 4 to 6 feet of space. And over the past 10 games, the Warriors are allowing almost 20% of 3-point attempts against them be considered open. That's by far the most in the NBA. No other team is above 18%. Like the closest one is about 17.8, 17.9%. And Myles Turner, while he's not Kristaps Porzingis, he's not Lauri Markkanen from 3-point range, he can burn teams that allow a lot of catch and shoot opportunities. Even though he's only gone over it in 4 of his last 10, look at the 4 matchups in which he went over. He made 5 3-pointers against the Bulls. They're like the catch and shoot defense that you want to target in the entire NBA. He made 4 against the Spurs. We just talked about how bad the Spurs are. He made 2 against the Thunder, who do have a good defense, surprisingly allow a lot of catch and shoot 3-pointers. And he made 2 against the Cavs. And he always, Jared Allen doesn't like to go out to the 3-point line. So he ends up making a lot of 3-pointers specifically in that matchup. The last time Myles Turner played the Warriors, the same game Steph scored 42, Myles Turner went 2 of 5 from deep. If he had that exact same output tonight, we would love that because it would cash our play. And now we have 2 picks left. Before we get into the last couple, and then we have the SGP as well. So technically 3 bets total. I want to talk to you about a 1-year premium subscription giveaway. If you want a chance to win a premium 1-year subscription to Betting Pros, it's your place to bet smarter, not harder. All you need to do is subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel and then comment on this video. You do those 2 things, and that's how you can be entered. A winner will be announced right here on the channel. So I would also recommend turning notifications on so you can be alerted when new episodes drop. But subscribe and comment, and then come in and claim your prize. Hopefully you win the 1-year premium subscription giveaway. 2 more plays, and these are both going to be full unit mix slams. Clippers versus Blazers game. I'm taking James Harden, 10 plus assists, plus 105 odds at DraftKings. So we were on James Harden assists on Wednesday. That cashed with ease, and I'm going to go ahead and run it back. I normally don't like doing stuff like that, and I did just get burned from running the same play back-to-back with Sabonis, but he missed both. Let's hope Harden can cash both. But in that game, Harden had 14 assists on 17 potential assists. Now, that conversion rate is pretty high in general, but Harden has a high conversion rate just on the year. If you look at when his hot streak started, even if you look at the last 10 games, he has a pretty good conversion rate between potential assists and actual assists. And also, he could have another 17 potential assists. We only need him to get to 10. So he doesn't need to have as high of a conversion rate. And I can see this easily being another game where Harden racks up a bunch of assists. In his last 10 games, he's averaging just under 15 potentials and about 10 actual assists per game, 14.7 and 9.5 to be exact. And the reason why we are on Harden on Wednesday is because it was a really good matchup. The Blazers are allowing the 4th most assists per game to Harden's playmaking style. And Harden himself, he's been hot from an assist perspective, as I mentioned recently. He's gone over this number in 3 of his last 5 games. And then if you look at the last 10 game sample size, he's twice not gone over this number, but had exactly 9. So his floor is there. Stealing is there last game with 14 assists. I love for his assist matchup again tonight. And that's our second to last play. Last up, I think 8th final pick, something like that of the evening. 76ers versus Lakers game. I'm taking Anthony Davis over 38.5 points plus rebounds. Best offered at minus 111 odds per the Betting Pros consensus. Now, this number might seem high initially because AD has only cashed it in 2 of his past 10 games, which means that for our last play, we have an excellent opportunity to fade recent results with this one. And the reason why I like this play, it's a matchup play against the Sixers. The Sixers have been allowing just ridiculous center performances recently. And it's kind of similar to the Raptors. Just look at how banged up they are. No Joel Embiid means that their center rotation consists of B-ball Paul Reed, who's a good player, but he's undersized and is not someone that should be playing starter minutes. Mo Bamba, who seems like a great person, not a great basketball player. Or they're going small with Nick Batum at the 5, something like that. Which means Anthony Davis, in the matchups that he struggles, is generally against people that can be physical with him and that kind of get him off his game. That's not how the Sixers can play basketball with their center rotation. So I like Anthony Davis. I like both his points and his rebounds individually. So I just found I figured it was safer to just combine the 2 because I like both individually. I could see him scoring 30 points. I could also see him getting 20 rebounds. And if you look at the Sixers and how they've performed against centers recently, they've allowed 7 straight centers to go over their points plus rebounds number. And they've allowed some pretty monster performances, both from rebounding and from points. Last game, they allowed 14 rebounds to Yusuf Nurkic on an over-under of 11.5. The game before that, Bam Adebayo had 13 rebounds on an over-under of 10.5. And then you look at some other recent games. They gave up 19 points to Brook Lopez on an over-under of 13.5. And overall, 6 of the last 7 centers against the Sixers have gone over their point prop specifically. The one guy that didn't was Yusuf Nurkic, who scored 10 points on an over-under of 11.5. And then, as I mentioned, he crushed his rebounding number. He had 14 rebounds. And I get AD can be reliable, specifically from scoring. His rebounds, he's a little more consistent with. It's scoring that can really be frustrating with Anthony Davis. But again, he gets flustered with size and with guys that can play him physically, which is not what the Sixers can do. And then from rebounds, again, I think he could get 20 rebounds in this game. Over the past 10 games, the Sixers have been the second worst defensive rebounding team in the entire NBA. So he could get 5 offensive rebounds just via tips for this game. So I love the Anthony Davis one. I think it's a really good play, even though that the recent win percentage isn't there. Now for our same game parlay, and I think we've yet to get one of these to cash. Granted, we've only done it for a couple days now, so it's not a long sample size of this. But the SGP is going to be in the Pacers Warriors game. So it's really the only game that doesn't have any injury news. And the SGP is going to be plus 385 odds. It's a two-legger. Steph Curry 30 plus points. Myles Turner over 1.5 made 3-pointers. Both of those cashed the last time these two teams played. Steph scored 41. Myles Turner had 2 3-pointers. I mentioned why I love the matchup for both of these guys already on the stream. So I took their pumped up number for Steph to get to 30, already plus money banger for Myles Turner to get to 2. Absolutely love that same game parlay. I think it's going to be the one to cash for us. And that was my same game parlay of the day. If you are looking to build your own same game parlay, check out the Betting Pros Same Game Parlay Builder. You combine multiple bets within a single NBA game, and you can use a bunch of different strategies to place the best SGP. You can leverage insights like correlated bet recommendations, expected value ratings, cover probability, a ton more. Perfect your own betting strategy by analyzing the correlation grades and projections that Betting Pros offers. You can also stay ahead of the curve by following fellow bettors and what SGPs they're placing. Start building winning parlays today at bettingpros.com/parlay. And that's all we got. A little bit of a shorter stream. Sorry, that's just how the NBA slate was. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. I appreciate everybody who was commenting in the chat. Let's hope we can have a great stream today, or a great day today from the picks from the stream, and have a great weekend.